Welcome to the Wise Idea Weekly Podcast with Christopher J. Harris, focusing on life, leadership, family, marriage, and the church. We are providing tools for our inspiration and wisdom for life. Our goal is to inspire everyday people to live wise lives. If you're new to us, we release a brand new podcast weekly on Thursdays. Thank you for tuning in for this week's episode. Here's our host, Christopher J. Harris.
Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Wise Idea Weekly Podcast with Christopher J. Harris. I am your host, Christopher J. Harris, and I'm so excited to have you tuned in for today's show. Of course, you know, every single week we are interested in providing tools for inspiration and wisdom for life. It's really simple. We want to inspire everyday people to live wise lives. Yeah. And we are on mission with it. We're excited about it. We're focused on it. Simply put, we focus on life, leadership, family, marriage, and ministry. That is specifically about the church. That's the focus of my life and the focus of this podcast. And John Maynard Keynes helps us out by saying that when wisdom becomes a part of your life gets better in every single area. I've got some stuff that I want to tell you to do, and I'll do that at the end of this podcast, but I want to jump right in because I've got an amazing guest on with me today. She's got so many titles. Man, I don't know what titles to use. So I'll just call her Robin, and then these other titles will come up as we go through this conversation today. Welcome, Miss Robin Ware. How are you?
Hey, I am fantastic. Thank you so much, Christopher, for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I tell you, she is par excellence. She's the president of the Ware agency. Before that, she served at 3 churches and was on the boots on the ground. She's an author of 10 books, a life coach for individuals, a success coach for them. She coaches churches, and man, like, this resume is real long. I don't want to take the whole episode resume.
That is so funny.
Yeah, here's how I'll sum it up. Man, I'm connected to amazing people. How about that?
Bless you. You are too kind. God bless you.
Yeah. Well, listen, all month long, we have been focusing on how social media has changed our lives. And you have written a number of books, and even I hear another book that's going to be coming out. Even though your focus, and we're going to have you back on the Wise Idea podcast when we start talking about church strategies, because you are a guru. And you know, I don't just say this because we're recording, but I'll make it public. I mean, Robin is one of those folks when I have some very specific questions about first impressions or branding or marketing, both personal and for church, man, I pick up the phone and I text her and I say, give me the truth. What do you see? What do you know? And you really don't have to tell her to give you the truth because she's going to give that to you.
I'm going to give you the truth. Right.
Whether you ask for it or not.
Right.
But you jumped out of the gate with the Ware agency in many ways, talking about social media. And, you know, so that's one of the things that I want to focus on today and all of that. But before we do that, there may be a lot of people that are listening to us and they're not totally familiar with the Ware agency. So tell us about the Ware agency and tell us a little bit about you, Robin.
Well, I am, hold on 1 second. I'm sorry about that. I have to just do one thing. I am the president, of course, of the Ware agency. I'm so blessed and honored that I get to work with pastors and leaders, and I teach first impression ministries, as I like to say, how to make sure that they leave lasting and memorable experiences, not only with visitors, but with members. And so I also work with ministries and I help them from marketing, from a marketing and branding perspective, get new websites, new logos. You know, I got to help churches get rid of using all those fancy crests and all that stuff that churches are guilty of doing. But I just really help come along and from a customer service perspective and operating in excellence. That's really my focus when I work with ministries.
Yeah, and one of the other things that you do, and I've loved seeing some of the feedback that you've offered, and this may be some new terminology for some people, and that is that you're a secret shopper for churches.
I
So let's,
am, yes.
let's talk a little bit about that.
So what I do is I go in, ideally, I've spoken to the leadership team and I've presented what's expected in church. And so after doing that session, then I stay over on Sundays and I do a secret shopper piece. And I'd like to do it right after I've taught the session so that I can show them this is what I was talking about yesterday.
Mm.
And so it's fresh on their mind. They've just learned the information and they're able to connect the dots. Then I actually sit through worship service and I audit the worship experience as well. And I have written as many as a 14-page assessment, giving that type of feedback, being constructive with my criticism. But what I try to help ministries see, particularly now that we're in a digital age, that you have to make sure that your live experience connects to your digital experience. So, what you may think about having followers and supporters online, you can't just think about it like that. You have to think about that these are souls. And so that's part of what I offer. So I'm a little bit unique with the whole secret shopper. I'm not just coming there to make sure your restrooms are clean. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And that's really, it's a business term that some people, if those that are listening to this episode, if you're one of my audience members and you're primarily listening because of the stuff we talk about with church, that's a business term, secret shopper, but really it's a very good practice for your church to have. Think undercover boss, wherein this person is coming to offer feedback, because oftentimes, and I'm in a church every day. I'm working and leading, helping to lead churches every day. And if we're not careful, we can turn inward and be so focused on ourselves and the people that are always coming that we don't always have fresh eyes to see how outsiders or newbies are viewing our experience. And ultimately, we want to eliminate as many barriers as we can to people hearing the gospel or receiving the gospel or, getting the good news. So as we talk about how social media has changed our lives, what have you seen? The Ware agency has been around for 16 years, but what have you seen? I mean, you have seen churches jump on MySpace and then jump off of MySpace as MySpace left us or went away or whatever it did, and all the advancements and matriculation that you've seen thus far. So let's talk a little bit about that. And I'm hoping as we talk about this, that if there's a pastor or a ministry leader, an executive pastor that's listening to this, I pray to God that they're still not on MySpace.
Well, hold on though, before you talk about MySpace, there's still some life with MySpace, particularly those that are artists. But from a church perspective, one of the things I teach is that you've got to make sure that you use the right network for your needs. Even my faith-based entrepreneurs that I coach, it is not necessary to have a presence on every single network. You need to show up where your audience is. Simple as that. And then once you're there where your audience is, you're able to navigate and identify those people that want to become your tribe. Now, not to get too technical, but people get caught up in numbers and they say, oh, well, that person's got 8,000 followers. But if they can't translate that into dollars in the bank, it means nothing. So I'd rather you have 1,000 followers that are of your tribe that will want to purchase and connect and hire you so that you can translate that into dollars in the bank. So from a church perspective, you have to use the network that helps you connect with the audience you're assigned to. Churches cannot be all things to all people. It's just not possible, right? And that's where we go wrong. We think, okay, we'll have a traditional service at 7:30 in the morning, and then we'll have a charismatic service at 11 a.m. And we'll have different music, and that's what will separate the two. But that's just the beginning, right? And so what social media does, it allows you to reach your ideal audience. There are, oh my goodness, over 2 billion people on Facebook. I love Facebook. In fact, my new book that's coming out is the ultimate Facebook guide for churches of any size, because I teach them how they can best use Facebook to reach the lost, to reach the least, and to reach those left behind. And social media is that tool. I'm telling you, we've got to think beyond 60 minutes on Sunday. 60-minute service, 75-minute, 90-minute, however long your service is. But we spend too much time when in essence, social media allows us to touch someone 24/7.
So just to clarify some language here, when you say network, you're really talking about platforms?
Yes.
Okay. And you didn't say this word, but I want to dig into it a little bit, because I think you're really honing in on something that I think is really important. And that is, you're really talking about engagement. You said,
Yes.
The numbers, people say, oh, this person has 8,000 followers in the example that you use. But, if I look at a person's, let's just say Instagram page, and they've got 10,000 followers, but on a consistent basis, they're only getting, 20 likes, 30 likes.
Right. They're not engaging.
Yeah, that's not engagement. And so let's talk about that distinction and why that distinction is important.
Well, it probably means they bought those followers.
Wow.
Because when you do the math, anyone with 10 and 20,000 followers ought to be getting 100 or more likes. And that's the first giveaway. I'm telling you, when I'm doing my presentations, that's what I immediately talk about, is that, do not go and buy followers. You're not engaging with them, right? And I feel like as in ministry, even as being a coach, what I give out, I get back. And so it's important to me that I do engage with people so that I can receive and be blessed as well. And ministries, it's so vitally important that you set up your different networks, Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is you choose to use, so that it can be a two-way communication. People can ask questions. People can be poured into. They can, I like to say that all the senses are touched. So audio files, video files, PDFs, all of those items are you're able to use through social media versus just turning on a camera and doing a live stream. You're just letting people sit at home comfortably and watch.
That's good. So as I alluded to earlier when I was introducing you, you're also a coach for individuals. And so what are you seeing in terms of people being able to embrace, or the challenges that they have individually of embracing social media? What does that look like, and what have you seen?
Well, one of the things, people, they try to make it out like it's such a mystery, and it's not. The success in using social media to increase your reach, to expand your client base, and to monetize your online presence, if that's your goal, because not everybody's on here to just monetize their online presence. They may just want to extend their reach, and that's fine. But there are support systems that you have to invest in. It's just like in ministry. Churches want to put up one flyer with the picture of the pastor and the spouse and service times and call that marketing. That's not marketing. That's literally a flyer, right?
And some of those flyers have 20 fonts on them.
Oh my God, 20 fonts. They have typos. They have way too much information. If you can't read it in 5 to 7 seconds, it doesn't need to be on there, but that's a whole nother conversation. But, social media allows us, even, back to your question about with individuals, it allows us an even playing form, an even platform, right? Because I'm sitting here in my little studio. My parents, they live with me. I'm so blessed to take care of them. They've been married 59 years. And they'll ask me, are you going up to your TV studio? And literally, it's just a room in my house, right? That I've got a desk and lights and all that set up. But social media has allowed me to reach people that I never would have been able to financially reach if I had to pay for it, right? And so I teach churches as well as individuals, as entrepreneurs, that it's really important that you understand the responsibility that comes with you showing up online. as being someone of wisdom, someone that's, in my opinion, if you're not showing up to add value to a person's life, you're showing up for narcissistic reasons.
Wow. Narcissistic reason. So I want to come back to the support systems in a minute, but I mean, I think you're alluding to something right now that even when and it's funny because my Facebook anniversary came up a couple weeks ago, and I was blown away. I'm like, man, I literally it's been a decade, and
Wow.
So you start thinking about all of that, and you start kind of looking back over the journey, and I had to admit and acknowledge that. When I first jumped on social media, so I was on MySpace, and then, Facebook came out, and, even when Facebook first came out, of course, it's been out so long, people have forgotten that when they first created, you had to have a .edu email address.
.edu, you had to have a .edu email address. That's right.
And so, once we finally were able to get in there, there was a point, a season, at least for me, and I'll say this transparently, where I was working to get numbers and not being true to who I was.
Right.
And then I realized that, wait a minute, people aren't connecting to me for me to be something that I'm not.
That's right.
They're wanting me to be true to me.
Yeah.
And so let's talk a little bit about that, because I think sometimes people get into that rat race of social media and lose the value of who they are and their identity and all of that.
Well, I teach it requires purpose. Everything we do, we should do with purpose, right? And so my presence on social media is all because of the purpose that I believe God birthed me for this time, for such a time as this, right? And so if I'm not adding value, my students will tell you, see, I've even got notes here in preparing for our talk, but I always have, a topic. I always have my teaching points. I do my research. I'm prayerful about it because I don't want to waste people's time. And even though I've got really good followers, I've got, decent numbers, it's taken time and they've all come organically. I've never bought followers. Somebody I was talking to recently said with one of the updates on Instagram that you had to have, 5,000, 8,000, 10,000, whatever followers to be able to sell products. Well, if I don't have that number, then I'm not going to be able to sell products because I believe I want to do it organically. So even though you buy followers and now you can sell products, they're not real followers. They're not real people, right? There's nobody there. Those are fake accounts. So nobody's going to be able to buy it anyway. But anyway, or no one's going to be there to buy it, I should say. But if you're on with purpose and you don't care about numbers. I know people that had to start 2 and 3 Facebook pages before Facebook really came out with the whole business and like page because their first page filled up with 5,000 followers. And I said, well, how do you know 5,000 people? I speak. I go all around the world speaking, and I don't know 5,000 people. So even now, I probably have 3,000, and I feel some kind of way about that because I really should have about 600 on my personal page, and the rest of those people should be on my like page because that's the relationship that we have with one another. It's through business. It's through purpose. It's not through me telling you that I went and exercised this morning, right? Or that I'm cooking, XYZ. So I want people to understand that when you show up and you have purpose with your intention, God will do the rest. And it's the same thing with churches. You need to be who God said you are. I know some churches that say, well, Robin, I don't want to stream because we don't have everything just right. We don't have the right lights. We don't have the right cameras. Well, now people are putting their cell phones up and streaming you anyway. So what you need to do is make sure that your ministry operates in excellence and that the person that's on your microphone has a great understanding of the King's English so that they're representing. Look, I need to pull out my wand on that one. See, when I teach, I have to pull out my wand when I start swinging. But you want to make sure that what people see represents the kingdom and your ministry in the right light.
So let me just say this is a total segue, not a segue even, but I would even say it has nothing to do with this interview. But I am blown away when I am sitting in service, and our church streams, right? But yes. I am blown away at the number of people who are literally holding their phone up the entire service. Yeah. Like in my mind, like, okay, quick rant, if you'll allow me to do this. I am blown away because in my mind, I'm like, okay, you're on Facebook Live. Our church is on Facebook Live. Why not just at the beginning of the service, share our Facebook Live so you can put your phone down versus you getting cardio in holding your phone up.
Right.
It's just mind-boggling.
I do it though. I'm guilty a little bit. I don't do it every week. When social media really became popular, I started doing it because so many people didn't have stream. And I literally had pastors say to me, shout out my pastor, Bishop Paul S. Moore, how we get to keep up with Bishop. So I understood that as an assignment. But now that we're on Facebook and, Instagram and all of that, I pulled back because you're right. I want the followers to get connected to the ministry and not to me per se. But, people are doing it for different reasons. And some people just want to do it to show off their pastor because they know if they put the link that the person may not click it and go watch the stream, from your church. So,
But I think that for me, at least, it does play into a little bit of my personality. I'm probably not as active on social media as I could be. And for many people, I'm really active, but I'm not as active as I could be because oftentimes for me, I want to be able to live in the moment. Like I want to be able to enjoy the moment of what I'm dealing with or whatever. And, for me, like, for example, I had a friend of mine that was talking to me and we were on the phone and I was sitting in the airport and he was like, man, you know what I figured out about you? I was like, what? He's like, man, you travel much more than you post and tell people. And I said, yeah, because for me, like, if I'm going to the airport, oftentimes I'm on the phone, I'm on a conference call, or I'm, checking in with my family. When I get on the plane, I'm not trying to, y'all, all of us have seen clouds. We've seen what the plane looks like, all of that. So my mind, I'm using that time for thinking or, getting work done, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so there's a tension for me because I'm trying to get better at those kinds of things. But, I don't know. Maybe you're going to rebuke me for that. I don't know.
Well, I am, because that's one of my tips for selling without selling. When you go to a department store, you don't want the clerk, after they've asked you, do you need any help? And you say, I'm fine. You don't want them following you around, right? And so it's very aggravating. Well, that's what happens on social media. If all you do is post flyers, book me, hire me, buy this from me, I'm wonderful. No, what you need to do is figure out how to sell without selling. And one of the ways I do that is by posting, I have a little famous picture I take drinking my apple juice when I'm on the plane, because what that communicates to people is she's out speaking or she's out working and maybe there's something she can do with us. But again, that's purpose. I don't show you when I'm in the mall. I don't show you when I'm buying shoes because that's not purposeful. And it is nobody's business, right? So I try to help people understand the responsibility that comes with you posting and showing videos. I think you need to use wisdom in doing that. Now, do I have to, I don't stream everywhere I go and I don't say, jumping on to tell you I'm about to go speak. I don't ever do that. But my little thing is, that I'm on another airplane.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Miss Robin Ware breaking it down for us, talking about social media for our churches and social media for our lives and how to embrace it and how to engage in it and really how it's really, really radically changed our lives. Man, this episode was so much fun, and I can't wait for you to hear part 2 of our conversation, because as we get into part 2 of the conversation, Ms. Robin is going to go even deeper and provide some practical tools and steps and strategies, even more practical tools, steps and strategies for our churches. She's going to even talk a little bit about how you can adjust some of the things that you're doing on a weekly basis in your churches, and for your own life, some things that you can consider differently. As y'all can tell, she had no problem correcting me on my approach. I hope you're getting some of the same results from listening to this episode. I know that you will from part 2 as well. So you got to tune in for part 2 of this conversation of how social media has changed our lives with Miss Robin Ware. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you the next time. God bless you. Live wisely.
Thanks again for joining us on another episode of the Wise Idea Podcast with Christopher J. Harris. We hope you enjoyed our time together. If you did and would like additional resources and information, you can find the previous episodes, show notes, featured guest information, and more at www.thewise-ideapodcast.com. We also invite you to join the conversation on social media. The Wise Idea Podcast is on Twitter and Facebook. Find us at The Wise Idea and at our Facebook group, The Wise Idea Podcast. On Instagram, find us at The Wise Idea Podcast. Our host is also on social media. You can find him regularly on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Pinterest, all located at CJ Harris 1. Finally, if you enjoyed what you've heard, head over to iTunes and or Google Play and leave a rating and review for other listeners to find us. Our podcast is also on Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Thanks again for joining us. We will see you the next time. Live wisely.
Get understanding. The principal thing, and I'm not getting. Get understanding. Principal thing, and I'm not getting. Get understanding. I say it was the principal thing, and I'm not getting. Get understanding. Principal thing.